Our next section is short. It's toxin-mediated diseases. And toxin-mediated diseases, looking at this picture of this child here, where the skin has become denuded, how can you tell a child who has staphylococcal scalded skin syndrome? Look at this child, the skin has become denuded. How do we know that this child with the skin become denuded? The skin came off here in one finger. With one finger's worth of pressure, the skin came off. With one finger's worth of pressure, the skin came off. What's that called? Nikolsky sign. Skin came off with one finger's worth of pressure. It's Nikolsky. Well, also toxic epidermal necrolysis have Nikolsky sign. One finger's worth of pressure and the skin came off. How are we going to tell whether this kid has staphylococcal scalded skin syndrome or toxic epidermal necrolysis? How do you tell staphylococcal scalded skin syndrome versus toxic epidermal necrolysis? And the answer is that toxic epidermal necrolysis is secondary to drug toxins. Penicillin, sulfa drugs, allopurinol, rifampin, lamotrigine, penicillin non-steroidals, penicillin sulfa drugs, allopurinol, rifampin, penicillin drugs, allopurinol, rifampin, penicillin sulfa drugs, allopurinol, and rifampin, penicillin sulfa drugs, allopurinol, and rifampin. Okay? So how do you tell when someone's got a toxin-mediated infection? They both could have Nikolsky's, except toxic epidermal necrolysis is Stevens-Johnson gone one step further. The skin actually lifts right off the skin, right off of itself. This looks the same, but it's not from a toxin. They both have Nikolsky's. Which one acts like a burn? Both of them. Which one should be put in a burn unit? Both of them. Which of them causes you to get bloodstream infections with staphylococcus? Both of them. The staph goes into the blood. Which of them causes hypovolemia? Both of them. Which of them causes you to have a reaction that looks like hypotension, tachycardia, and sepsis? Both of them. Both of them. Both of them. They both do that. They both do that. They both do that. They both can do that. So they both can do that, and that's why both of these can look the same, except one's from a drug and one's from a staphylococcal toxin. Well, how are you going to tell the difference between that and toxic shock syndrome? Toxic shock syndrome is also from a toxin. Staph scalded skin is from a toxin. They both give skin infections, skin involvement. Toxic shock syndrome. Can we have a quiet moment together, you and I? All three of these. I feel like the fox and the little prince. I will tell you a secret, said the fox to the little prince. It's a very simple secret. All three of these things cause skin rashes, sloughing. One is from a toxin. One and two are from staphylococcal toxin, and one is from a drug toxin. How are you going to tell toxic shock syndrome apart from staph scalded skin? They're both from staph. They both cause a sloughing of skin. What will toxic shock syndrome have that staph scalded skin won't? Toxic shock syndrome should present with shock. And that's what's different about it. Hypotension. Come on, let it out. Let's feel good. Ah. Okay. Ah. Hypotension. Tachycardia. Hypotension, tachycardia, exfoliative rash. Increased creatinine, increased BUN, increased liver function tests, diffuse organ damage, diffuse organ damage. This one gets managed like a burn with staphylococcal antibiotics. This one has to be put into the ICU with pressors, like dopamine. Toxic shock syndrome. Oxacillin, cloxacillin, dicloxacillin, and nafacillin. Ox-clox, dicloxanaf, ox-clox, dicloxanaf. What do you do if you have a little rashy? What do you do if you have a little rash? to, what do you do if you have a little rash to penicillins? What's the alternative for Staphylococcus if you have a little rash to penicillins? A little rash to penicillins, and the answer is first generation cephalosporins, cefazolin or cefazolin, depending on where you put the emphasis, okay? Cefazolin, first generation cephalosporin, yes. Toxic shock syndrome. What's the difference between that and a person who has staph scalded skin, hypotension, and other organ problems? Staph scalded skin is in the skin alone. Staph scalded skin is in the skin alone. Staph scalded skin is in the skin alone.